Kevin Surace. I'm Artistic Director at Sunnyvale Community Players, and I'm the Music Director for West Side Story. Of all the shows I have ever gotten to music direct or participate in a variety of ways, I've sadly never gotten to do West Side Story, and I've always wanted to do West Side Story. It is the iconic musical of the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, literally for the last 64 years. What Bernstein and Sondheim wrote is considered the finest and most complex music ever written, period, for the American theater. So to be able to participate in this is such an honor. We, all of the musicians, have such respect for what was written and the breadth of what was written. From truly opera to jazz to mambo, just an immense set of different kinds of music styles. The difficulty of the music is really beyond compare in musical theater. There is nothing that's written that is as difficult and as challenging to play as this music is. When Bernstein and Sondheim got together to write the music and have the book written, they were dealing with the simple premise of, you know, can we take essentially a Shakespearean love story, essentially Romeo and Juliet, and bring it to the modern musical theater or musical opera or whatever you wanted to call it at the time. Nobody had ever done anything quite like this. This was an era in the 50s, you know, where we had Oklahoma and Carousel and then Music Man in the same year that West Side Story came out. So nobody ever attempted something of this stature. Frankly, I don't think anyone's ever attempted something of this stature since then. But when they brought this to bear, originally they were talking about doing it about gangs in LA, and in the end they did it about two rival factions in New York City, and it happened to be the Americans, played by primarily people of Polish descent, and those who came from Puerto Rico. That allowed a certain tension that was absolutely true in 1957 New York City. What they didn't know, and I think what they thought at the time, is that these tensions would resolve themselves in the following 5 years or maybe a decade, and maybe the musical would be out of style at that point. It'd literally be a historical look. Sadly, it is not a historical look. Everything that was happening then with gangs and hatred and anger absolutely is still happening today. That's what makes this musical so poignant. It's what makes it so important to see today. Our production of this captures what's happening today. Captures what's happening today. So it's important to see this for what it is. Yes, written in 1957, but the music works, the story works, everything works today. Now, as much as this is a story of hatred, it's a story of love. Because what brings these two factions together is the fact that love conquers all. And so we get to see that love blossom, and we get to see that love ultimately conquer, even in the midst of horrible tragedy. And what a absolutely fascinating thing to do. Another interesting point about this musical, at least musically, is that the show ends and the curtain closes. There is no exit music, there's no encore, there is nothing. If there are bows, it is with no music. It was meant to be done that way, it was written that way. That's what Bernstein had intended, because the peak of the emotion of the piece, which happens right at the end, is the end. There is no more to play, and there is no more to say. I've been involved in perhaps dozens of shows at SCP. And SCP Sunnyvale Players is a very special place. The theater only seats 199 people, and it's raked seating. So every seat in the house is an excellent seat. There isn't a bad seat in the house. I have to say that this is a show that you do not want to miss. It is the most impactful show I've ever worked on. It's the most impactful music. It's the most difficult show I've ever worked on. I think this entire cast has ever worked on. This entire staff has ever worked on. The cast is phenomenal. The people we have playing these roles, the young people, are just amazingly talented from all over the Bay Area. I have to say, do not miss this show. Do not miss this show. Get tickets. It's going to be safe. Everyone in the audience will be vaccinated. You'll have masks on. It will be very, very safe. The show will be performed without masks on stage, but the audience will all be masked. So safety is paramount. We're taking that very seriously, but we also think it's paramount to get out and experience live theater. You have not seen live theater in at least a year and a half or longer. You must see this show. It only plays for 4 weekends. That's it. And if you miss it, it's gone. So please get your tickets now. We open on September 11th. Don't miss this absolutely spectacular and I think incredibly emotional performance by this amazing cast.